Theodore Helverveer, aka Big Teddy, back with you. Bless up. Let's get right into it. The conversation that we're having today, in many ways, is one that I had to have with myself before I started this episode, but it's also one that I've been having my entire adult life with myself, again, and many people. And the topic for today is don't be afraid to evolve. But on a baser level, what we're talking about is growth versus change. And when we talk about growth in this context, evolution is really a much better word to use, which helps us go into and be a part of the proper mindset, right? And let's talk about why. So why did I have to think about evolution and growth? Because as of this episode, when this gets released, we are officially 21 episodes in. Bang! I want to thank everyone that's been here since episode 1. I want to thank all the new people that have come along all the way, that have started but stayed in and still engaged. And I really appreciate that. Thank you, Poland, by the way, for joining the mix. Was not expecting to see that one, but we're glad to have you here, right? And so the question that I had to ask myself is, what direction are we going in? What is going to be the next stage of evolution for the cast? How do we evolve? How do we get better, right? And this is something that should happen in all aspects of life, but most certainly in something or in things that we are passionate about and that we give our all to and that we do for a reason, because things become stale, they become repetitive, and when you're no longer finding fulfillment from them, you don't want to do them anymore. And I want to continue to do this cast. I want to grow it into vlogs, you know what I mean, and blog posts and different things like that, and more books. I want to always be reaching people and helping people and doing more to cultivate our community and helping you guys as individuals to cultivate yourselves. So I have to stay in the niche, right, but still evolve and do better. And so there are some simple and easy answers to that, like, you know, get better quality equipment, shift into videos and things like that. And these are all things that I want to do, but you still need to have these conversations to remind yourself, how am I getting better? How have I worked towards it? And so two things that really stick with me that let's talk about in the beginning. One that came up with the concept of evolution is from an old issue of X-Men. It's maybe 3 or 4 years old now. And not everybody does well with change, no matter how advanced you are. And a kid was talking to his girlfriend, and she understood that he was struggling with all the new things to come in the series. And she says to him, "Quentin, you're a mutant. Don't be afraid to evolve." You know, and it happens to a lot of us. We're very afraid of new things, even when we're actively chasing them. And if you're not necessarily afraid of new things, you can be afraid of how they're going to affect you. Fear of the unknown is very real, and it happens to everyone in all walks of life. And so this is why the conversation of change versus growth is important, because growth, evolution, is change with a purpose. It's advancement. It's becoming better. It's becoming more. It's gaining new abilities to meet new challenges and becoming new things for better reasons. There's purpose. There's intent behind it. Something that I've never, ever fucked with is change for the sake of change. And we've talked about this a little bit already, because we've talked about when you're growing, when you're evolving, when you're becoming new, this can be scary for other people in your life, even when it's not scary for you. They can be very fearful that they're going to lose you if they don't understand the new things that you're walking towards or are becoming. The new things that matter to you that didn't matter before. And it is often very hard for people to let go of who you were and what you have been. And this can often stunt your growth, especially when they matter, because a hard reality that we have to face is not everyone can go with you on a new path. People can come with you as far as they are capable. But sometimes you grow and move beyond people because they're not ready for the things that you're ready for when you're ready for them. And they may never be. And this is a reality. And sometimes we hold ourselves back and keep ourselves from going towards new things so that we don't lose bonds and connections that we feel dedicated to or that are important to us. And we can make relationships and situations toxic and bad and harmful and detrimental, trying to hold on to things that no longer serve us. And while it's understandable in some aspects, because bonds, especially bonds of quality and love and loyalty and trust, are deeply important to cultivate and hold on to. But the thing that we have to realize in that conversation is that nothing is for nothing and everything comes at a cost. And this is why you have so many situations where there's only certain people that can make it with you to the top. A person who served a need, even if that person is you, may no longer serve a need in years to come. And this is a struggle that we all have to face and learn to come to terms with. But moving back in to growth versus change. Change is doing something different in the context of this conversation without reason, which may not necessarily improve your situation or what you're working towards. But you can do it. People change sometimes just because they're at a loss. It is very easy to mistake change and growth because there's a fine line between the two, but one hurts and one helps. And change, for the sake of change, can often be hurtful or harmful to your process. But growth is never anything but beneficial, even when it costs you things along the way. And the only person that can come to terms with the cost is you. The only person that can make the choice or the decision to say, this is worth it, is you. Okay? And that's something that you gotta learn to understand with time. But evolution is important as individuals, as businesses, as a species, all across the board. No one is going to be on top forever. And this is why we talk about when you're doing new things or building your brand, on building a business, it's so important to stay ahead of the game and to always be learning and always be innovating, because as a creator and as an innovator, there's always new things that come along. And if you're not evolving, if you're not learning to change with the times, you get left behind. You have to be giving nothing less than your best. And you have to learn to make your best better over time. That is my never-ending mission in every aspect of life. Not to be the best, but to always be doing my best and to always actively be learning to make my best better. Because I understand that even when I'm giving my all, there are situations where my best just isn't good enough. And I need to do better. And you need that self-honesty in order to call yourself to task. How am I getting better? How am I doing better? How have I gotten better? Where is there room for improvement? And all of this is a part of that evolution process. Again, and part of it comes from finding and figuring out your direction. I want to keep helping. I want to do better. I want to reach more people. I want to be more accessible. I want to help us heal. I want to help us grow. And that, thinking about that, all right, let's sit down and do this podcast. Because before I had that conversation with myself, I was struggling with, should I do this episode? Should I continue the cast? Is it just more of the same? Am I really helping people? Are they getting something from this? Because if you're not getting anything from it, then what's the point of doing it? If you're not screaming free Pimp C, what is you saying? You feel me? This is the point that I'm trying to make. And so the conversation of change versus growth, of evolution, never stops. It's something that constantly needs to keep happening. And one of my favorite quotes from Inception, and one of the funniest quotes from Inception, is, "You mustn't be afraid to dream bigger, darling." And that's something that I really want to sit with you guys, and I really want you to hold on to and remember and believe. You mustn't be afraid to dream bigger. It's not bad to want more. It's not bad to a need to achieve more and do better. All things in moderation. What do you want? Even if you're just working 9 to 5 and you have a family to support, I want a good work-home life balance. I want to be able to spend time with my family and still do the damn thing at work. And for me, that was a conversation that happened in the terms of, okay, so I want to grow my platform. I want to grow the business for my family. I also want to be in a position to spend as much time with my family as possible. I want to leave something to my kids beyond just a will. You know what I mean? Beyond debt. I want them to have something that's ours, that's theirs, that they can build on and make their own when the time comes for them to be in charge of it. How do I do? You build the brand. This is something for me that has to evolve because it has to be passed on generationally. Okay? This has to grow into so much more. And not just for me, not just for my family, for you guys as well. It has to continue to be real. It has to continue to do better. What do you need to evolve at and in? And thinking of the specifics can help you do that as a whole, because that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about evolving as a whole so that you can do it in other situations effortlessly. You do it when you get a new job and you need to learn new things. You're learning to fit that role. And it's a combination of so many different processes of taking your practical experience that you've gained in other situations and applying it to new ones, but not leaning on it because things are going to be different in every situation. Learning from things that you haven't done yet that other people, oh, that's how that works? Dope. Thank you for sharing that with me. And applying it. It's the acquisition and applying of knowledge. Okay? And the cultivation of that knowledge into new things. Adding to your repertoire. And it's so funny. Because in some settings, in some countries, yeah, consistency is dope. You've done the same thing for 20 years, so you're going to come do the same thing for 20 years for us. But in other industries, and the way the world is growing and changing, that mindset is dead. Okay? You need to be able to cultivate and blossom into new things. The two things that everybody's looking for is good energy and innovation. We want someone who learns fast and is going to hit the ground running and land on their feet. You know, like we want, it's all about people who can adapt to new situations. We want experience, but we want someone, almost every ad that I see in any industry, because I study the market for all the things that I do, whether I intend to jump back in them or not. Because when you're building a business, you should build a business off of things that you know. If you decide to work for someone else, they want a person who has experience in these fields. Okay? It's very hard. And let's talk about hospitality. It is very hard to get into hospitality if you have no experience in hospitality. This is true of every industry, right? There are some things where it's like, oh, not a ton of experience is needed, but if you have it, it's a benefit. Okay? And also, when you look at companies that are doing well, when you look at their interaction with their employees, a conversation that constantly happens. When I was at my old law firm and I was in the records department, they said, we like what you do, you're consistent, but there's room for growth here. So here's what we want to know from you. How would you do this better? What do you think needs work? Where do you see room for change? Okay, because my voice and my opinion mattered as someone who worked with the system every day. And so they were looking for my help in making things better. And it's very easy when you don't enjoy what you're doing to say, I don't know. When you're just going through the motions every day, you're not thinking about how could this be better, even when you're complaining about the system. And some people have tons of answers on how to make things better and what they don't enjoy. But then there's factors from a managerial level or a higher up level where they don't get why certain things have to be a certain way. This was a money choice. This was a safety choice. This was a liability choice. And evolving into higher up positions is understanding how to provide a marriage between those two things. How to be an innovator, but one who's making growth and evolution for everyone. Because from a professional standpoint, that's the difference between growth and change. A show that I'm on right now that I'm really big on, because I love cooking, is a show in the Pacific called My Kitchen Rules, okay? And there were two chefs, a mother and a daughter, and they were supposed to prepare a traditional Indian meal. But instead of playing to their strengths and eating what they would eat themselves, they were trying to play to their market and play to the judges. And there's nothing wrong with that to an extent, because you have to understand how to meet people's needs. But it's not what they were looking for from them. So they did European and modern twist on traditional dishes. And the thing that everybody said, because it was a table full of chefs, is I wouldn't expect to see this at any Indian restaurant I've ever been to, because they were Indian. They were so tied in to doing something to appeal that they took away from a winning platform that they had tons of knowledge and experience in. There were other ways to make it better. And something that the main judge said to them, when it comes to cooking, but this applies to life as well, he said, if you're going to change, always make sure that you are making it better than what it already is. And while the food that they made was good and was tasty, it was not better than the traditional elements of what they already knew. And that is the difference between growth versus change. That is a prime real world example of doing shit just to do it and doing something to make it better. And there's nothing wrong with learning from someone else that does something better than you. Okay? Because that can inspire fear in people too. Oh, this person does this better than me. No. How'd they do that? Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Make it your own. Too often when we see people that are better at something, instead of learning from them and saying, oh, how do you do this? One of two things happen. Either we give up or we slander the shit out of them. Well, yeah, he did that, but he sucks at this. Nah, we're not about that. We're not about that. Because the only person you should be in competition with is yourself. And if you're learning from everyone and everything around you, there's no reason to feel a way about it. We mustn't be afraid to dream bigger. And more importantly, don't be afraid to evolve. Bang! And that's where we're at. Thank you guys for coming back this week, every week. Super appreciate it. This episode of More Than Just Surviving Life is brought to you by the HOH Collective. Thank you so much for all the love and support. You are appreciated. We appreciate you listening. Drop by and check out our Patreon, please. Give us some views, give us some reviews, tweet us. All of it is appreciated. We're definitely trying to grow and expose ourselves to new things and reach more people. And any and all help in that effort is endlessly appreciated. We're going to keep being here. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep evolving together. We're committed, okay? And the love is real. Bless up, family, and we will see you soon.